Bills Mafia, what's up? As always, this team is pushing to improve, pushing to evolve, and pushing to bring the results that this city and this fan base deserve. Every offseason move, every decision, every moment inside that building is about taking the next step toward a championship. And before we dive into today's massive story, one that touches on Coleman, Terry Pegula, Brandon Cooks, and even the Bills' head coaching search, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop your thoughts in the comments. We've got an exclusive report today that you're not going to hear anywhere else. By the way, Bills fans, if you want official Buffalo Bills gear, jerseys, hats, or the new Sideline pieces, I left the link to the official store below. It helps the channel and keeps you geared up for the season. Let's get right to it. Bills Mafia, Wednesday's press conference with Terry Pegula set off shockwaves across Buffalo and the entire NFL landscape. Of all the controversial things Pegula said, and there were many, one topic stood above the rest: his comments about Coleman. According to Pegula, Sean McDermott and his coaching staff, not Brandon Beane, were primarily responsible for taking Coleman with the number 33 pick in the 2024 NFL Draft. And that one statement immediately lit the fan base on fire. Because whether Pegula meant it or not, it created the impression that the organization was distancing itself from one of its most polarizing young players. And trust me, players around the league heard it too. On Thursday morning, Bills wide receiver Brandon Cooks joined NFL Network's Good Morning Football and reacted to Pegula's comments. And what Cooks said opened a window into the real emotions inside the locker room. Cooks said, "When you hear something like that, you're like, well, am I wanted?" That's the truth as a player. He went on to explain that typically, players don't hear ownership publicly separating themselves from a draft pick, and when it happens, it immediately raises questions. And he's right. That kind of comment creates doubt, tension, and confusion, not just for Coleman, but for every young player on the roster, wondering how the organization really views them. But this is where Brandon Cooks showed major leadership. Even though he only joined the Bills in November, Cooks made it clear he's personally invested in Coleman's development. He said he's been in contact with that he sees real potential, and that Coleman is misunderstood. According to Cooks, is still just a kid, a talented, emotional, raw receiver still figuring out what it means to be a professional in the NFL. And you know what? He's not wrong. Coleman's NFL career so far has been a mixed bag. Over 2 seasons, he's played in 26 games and posted 67 catches for 960 yards and 8 touchdowns. Not terrible, but not what you want from a top 33 pick. Add in the benchings, the discipline issues, the body language criticisms, and yes, disappointment is a fair label. But Cooks sees something different. He sees a player who is still moldable, a player who can grow if someone just takes the time to teach him. Cooks even said, "All it takes sometimes is someone saying, 'Let me take you under my wing and show you the way.'" That's what leadership looks like, Bills Mafia, and that's what this franchise desperately needs right now. Because the truth is, Pegula's comments didn't just raise questions about Coleman's future, they raised questions about the entire direction of the franchise, especially with the new head coaching search heating up and former Giants head coach Brian Daboll officially interviewing with the team. Let's talk about that. The Bills have now interviewed Joe Brady, their in-house offensive coordinator. They've interviewed Brian Daboll. They've requested meetings with Anthony Lynn and Dolphins defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver. They have scheduled interviews with Jaguars OC Grant Udinsky and Colts DC Lou Anarumo. But the name that stands out the most, to fans and to Josh Allen, is Brian Daboll. Daboll is the man who helped transform Allen from raw prospect to superstar quarterback. He's the coach Allen trusted, the coach Allen grew under, the coach Allen bonded with the most during his rise, and anyone who watched the Bills' offense during Daboll's final 2 years in Buffalo knows exactly why he is viewed as the frontrunner. Daboll left for the Giants in 2022, became head coach of the year in his first season, and despite a tough record since, his offensive mind and his connection to Allen carry enormous weight. Now the Bills have him back in the building interviewing for the top job. And here's where things get interesting. Pegula's comments about Coleman and his assertion that McDermott, not Bean, drove that draft pick, that creates a narrative suggesting the old regime made mistakes the front office didn't fully endorse, a narrative that could influence how the next head coach views this roster, including Keon Coleman. Would Daboll want Coleman? Would he trust that talent, or would he prefer to reset the wide receiver room entirely? This matters because Keon Coleman's future might depend on who Pegula hires next. Brandon Cooks made it clear. He believes Coleman still has potential. He believes Coleman is misunderstood. He believes Coleman can still become the player the Bills hoped he'd be. But will the new head coach agree? Will the new leadership group prioritize youth development, or will they reshape the wide receiver room around veterans like Cooks and Palmer? Right now, the Bills' wide receiver room is a mix of questions, talent, inconsistency, and potential, and Keon Coleman sits right in the middle of that crossroads. And let's address one more thing. Pegula's comments didn't just create controversy, they created pressure. Pressure on Keon Coleman to prove he belongs. Pressure on the front office to show they can develop young talent. Pressure on the next head coach to decide whether to build around Coleman or move on. And ultimately, pressure on the Buffalo Bills organization to show a unified direction, something this week's press conference did not achieve. But Bills Mafia, here's the truth. This franchise is entering a new era, a new coach, a new structure, a new identity, and how they handle players like Keon Coleman, young, talented, flawed, and still growing, will say everything about where the Bills are headed next. And today, wide receiver Brandon Cooks is breaking his silence, and he isn't sugarcoating anything. We're going back to that overtime thriller against the Denver Broncos in the AFC divisional round. Bills fans have replayed the moment 100 times, coaches have studied it, analysts have debated it non-stop, and now Brandon Cooks himself has made it perfectly clear what he believes happened. At the end of the day, it was a catch. Those were his words this week on Good Morning Football. No hesitation, no doubt, no careful phrasing to avoid league criticism. Cooks came with honesty and with emotion. Let's rewind to the moment that has haunted every Bills fan for weeks. Buffalo's only possession of overtime, 3rd and 11 from the 36-yard line. Josh Allen drops back and unleashes a deep shot to Brandon Cooks, the veteran receiver who had become Allen's go-to guy down the stretch. A clean throw, perfect timing, and Cooks appears to secure the ball as he goes to the ground. Bills fans erupted. It looked like a season-saving moment. But as Cooks and Denver corner Jaquan McMillian hit the turf, the ball shifted, bodies tangled, and somehow McMillian emerged with the football. The ruling on the field? Interception. And after a shockingly quick review, the call stood. Denver ball. And seconds later, Denver's season continues, Buffalo's season ends. Even now, Bills Mafia can feel the sting. But what makes it even more painful is exactly what Cooks pointed out. The replay review barely lasted long enough for anyone to blink. Cooks said, when you look back at it, the time that was spent on it wasn't enough. Given the magnitude of that game and the situation, it's a little disappointing. And he's right. This wasn't a Week 3 second quarter play. This wasn't a routine out-of-bounds catch. This was the defining moment of the Bills' playoff run. This was the moment that decided who advanced and who went home. To spend so little time reviewing a potential momentum-changing catch in overtime in the divisional round feels like a failure of the process. And Cooks isn't the only one who feels that way. Players, coaches, former refs, and fans across the league have said the same thing. The NFL's catch rule has been debated more times than we can count. It's changed, been rewritten, clarified, explained, re-explained, and yet the confusion remains. How many times do we have to watch a player make an athletic play, secure the ball, hit the ground, and then lose a season because the rulebook is written like a math equation? And here's the part that hurts even more. Cook said not only did it look like a catch, it felt like a catch. That kind of authenticity hits Bills fans straight in the heart. Because players know. Players feel control. Players know when they've secured the ball. Yet the league continues to rely on slow-motion frames instead of the reality on the field. Now, as Bills fans try to move forward, this play remains the emotional centerpiece of the offseason. And it's not just about the call, it's about what comes next. Buffalo is entering a transformational moment. A new head coach search is underway after the firing of Sean McDermott. For the first time in 7 years, the Bills are redefining their identity. Players like Brandon Cooks, veterans, leaders, high-character guys, are crucial voices in a time like this. But here's the twist. Brandon Cooks is a free agent. His future in Buffalo is uncertain, and no one knows yet whether he plans to re-sign, test the market, or wait to see what the Bills' coaching situation looks like. But what we do know is this. Cooks earned respect in that locker room. Cooks earned Josh Allen's trust. Cooks made big plays when Buffalo needed them most, and Cooks clearly cares. His honesty on national television wasn't bitterness, it was competitive fire, it was passion, it was the voice of a veteran who knows how close this team was to advancing. He said, "It's a tough pill to swallow, but that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes." But Bills Mafia knows something else. This team is too talented, too resilient, too driven to let one moment define their future. Now the question becomes, what now? What does this controversial play mean for Brandon Cooks' future? Will the next head coach, whether it's Brian Daboll, Joe Brady, Anthony Lynn, or Lou Anarumo, push to keep him? Will the Bills continue building around veteran leaders who deliver in high-pressure moments? Or will they reshape the receiver room entirely? There's also another layer. Buffalo desperately needs consistency at wide receiver. Yes, the young players flash. Yes, the talent is there. But when games matter most, you need someone Josh Allen trusts implicitly. Cooks became that guy, and that matters, maybe more than ever. So now, I want to hear from you. Do you think Terry Pegula's comments were out of line? Do you believe Keon Coleman deserves another chance in Buffalo with a new coaching staff? And most importantly, would you want Brian Daboll back as the next Bills head coach? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And before you go, smash that like, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another exclusive Buffalo Bills report. And don't forget, the official Bills store link is down below if you want to check out the newest gear. Thanks for watching, Bills Mafia. Stay strong, stay loud, and as always, go Bills.